Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital. Now before I begin, be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Situated high above the Arctic Circle, the town of Longyearbyen has some of the poorest soil in the world. Not to mention that it is dark for 3 months of the year. It should be no surprise then that Longyearbyen has always shipped in all of its food. So when Chef Benjamin Vidmar suggested he could create a resilient local food system, everyone laughed, but he proved them wrong. We'll learn more about how Chef Vidmar is making the tundra bloom at the end of this video. But first, whether you want to become more self-reliant or simply want to create an edible garden in your own backyard, you may be interested in permaculture. And in today's video, we have the top things you should know. Number 1. Permaculture or permanent agriculture is a holistic system designed to produce food for direct consumption in a way that is completely self-sustaining. Its 3 core principles include care for the earth, care for the people, and the promotion of fair share. Number 2, permaculture strives to work with nature instead of against it, and has 12 principles that allow it to do this. Observe and interact. Before making any decisions, you take time to observe nature and gain insight on how to farm. Catch and store energy. Permaculture relies on capturing resources like rainwater and solar electricity. Obtain and yield. Permaculture is not just a hobby. It's designed to produce food, income, or something else in return for the farmer. Apply self-regulation and accept feedback. Use and value renewable resources and services. Produce no waste. Design from natural patterns. Integrate rather than segregate. Pair plants with livestock and other objects together correctly so that you can take advantage of the relationships that each part has with the other. Use small and slow solutions. Use and value diversity. Use edges and value the marginal. Permaculture says that where 2 different things meet, interesting stuff happens. And finally, creatively use and respond to change. Number 3, there are many benefits to permaculture. Because permaculture works with the natural system, it often reduces your water usage. It's also cost effective. Due to its zero waste philosophy, you won't need to spend money on things like pesticides or fertilizers. Reduced waste, self-sustaining system. In permaculture, nature does most of the work, allowing it to become self-sustaining and requiring less maintenance overall. Less pollution and fewer toxins because permaculture employs natural fertilizers and pest control methods. More self-sufficiency. And finally, permaculture is applicable to a variety of existing systems. If you are already farming the land using a conventional system, it is usually fairly easy to incorporate permaculture practices. Number 4, permaculture implements its philosophy through a couple design principles. The use of zones. This involves the division of areas on a farm based on both the movement and amount of human attention required for different areas. So the zones closer to the farmhouse would require more work than the outer zones. Relative location. This design principle involves thoughtfully planning zones based on where they are in relation to each other. For example, you may plant downhill from a pond, which will allow easy irrigation. Single element with multiple functions. This design principle seeks to maximize efficiency by placing farm elements in a way that encourages the performance of multiple functions. For example, a properly positioned pond can supply both irrigation and fencing for livestock. Single functions from multiple elements. This design principle is focused on function and making sure multiple elements supply it. For example, you may back up feed crops with edible food forests or fruit trees, or use a pond to help irrigate during the drought. Energy efficiency. The more energy efficient you can make the design, the better. Including any solar or wind power in the design helps ensure that very little energy is wasted. Biological resources. This design element promotes more efficient non-human elements, for example, the use of animals for tasks, weed control, pest control, and fertilizer production. Plant succession. This design principle states that plant populations develop over time and transform from fields and weeds to progressively larger plants. Nutrient recycling. This design principle uses the ecosystem within the farm to replenish nutrients instead of relying on imports. For example, composting organic matter and using manure as fertilizer. And diversity. This design principle encourages a variety of different crops and farm animals to prevent farmers from becoming dependent on a single product. Number 5. Know that there are some differences between permaculture and organic. To be certified as organic, a farmer often needs to import certified organic resources. A true permaculture farmer, on the other hand, will prioritize using local resources. Permaculture farming also goes beyond organic by closing the fertilizer loop and using all waste products on site. Permaculture also minimizes farmer input by making the plants and animals on site do most of the work. And finally, permaculture aims to imitate nature and use only natural materials, such as compost and manure for fertilizer and animals for pest control. And number 6, if all of this has seemed very theoretical, here are a few common permaculture practices: no-till farming, rainwater harvesting, natural building, composting, integrating animals and plants on the same plot of land, and rotational grazing. But let's return to Chef Benjamin Vidmar's Polar Permaculture Project. In 2007, the American-born chef accepted a job at a restaurant in Longyearbyen, one of the northernmost settlements in the world. Longyearbyen is located in Svalbard, a Norwegian archipelago located far north of the Arctic Circle. The town was founded as a coal mining settlement in the early 20th century and has always relied on imported food to sustain itself, which Chef Vidmar took as a challenge. In this most hostile and remote of climates, could he build a local and sustainable food infrastructure? As it turns out, the answer is yes. But as you may imagine, it was not so easy. To start with, Longyearbyen's soil is completely unsuited for growing crops. But instead of shipping in soil, Benjamin brought in worms. The goal was to build his own soil by composting the organic waste from his restaurant, a practice that would solve another major problem in the Arctic food cycle: the disposal of organic waste. Nothing decomposes when buried in the ground, so Longyearbyen must either dump its waste into the ocean or ship it back to the mainland. Using worms to recycle at least some of this waste is a simple and, in retrospect, obvious improvement to the current system. Yet despite this, it took Benjamin a year and a half to receive permission from the government to import worms. It turns out Longyearbyen had no agricultural regulations in place, and the simple act of shipping in earthworms required a campaign to rewrite the system. But once his worms were successfully shipped, Benjamin then built a geodesic greenhouse where he put his new fertile soil to work, growing microgreens, radishes, carrots, cabbages, and potatoes. His goal is to supply 50% of the town's greens by 2030. And if he can build a sustainable agricultural system in the Arctic, you can do it on your land. Now, do you have any stories about permaculture farming? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down listings at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.